Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. Now recently on my channel I've been covering a lot of Games Workshop stuff. I'm aware of the fact that I've been covering quite a lot of Games Workshop products, but that's not the only thing I'm interested in. I'm also interested in a lot of other things. It's just Games Workshop stuff happens to be a big part of my hobby, and therefore it's a big part of the coverage on my channel. But having said that, I thought I would take a little break from Games Workshop and we would talk about a new card game that I'm interested in. And that card game is... it's Warhammer Age of Sigmar Champions. Yeah. Okay, so it's not like a proper Games Workshop product, but it's a licensed Games Workshop product. But it's actually a really neat little card game. I have here the campaign decks for Chaos and Death. Not my first choice. I would have liked to have had the Destruction deck, the Oryx and Grots, but I couldn't get that when I was ordering online. I could only get these two. So these are the two that I have. Interesting story. I wasn't really interested in buying this game. I knew the game was coming out, and I don't really like the trading card blind packaged method of selling a product. I've said this before on my channel, I'm sure, numerous times, and I've certainly said it on my blog, Always Bored, Never Boring. I used to, back in the day, play Magic the Gathering, and I have collected other blind packaged products in the past, but I do not like blind packaging, and it's not something that interests me. I understand that it's for a lot of people it's a really enjoyable aspect of this particular style of gaming, but it's something that immediately turns me off a product, and this being a trading card game with sealed blind boosters, that was immediately something that sort of turned me off. And I looked into the game a bit, and it looked decent enough, but just didn't look like something that was going to immediately lure me in and make it worth my while buying them. And then I got my most recent copy of White Dwarf magazine, and my most recent copy of White Dwarf magazine had these on the cover. Yeah, with White Dwarf magazine, Games Workshop gave away one of the booster packs, and I'll move this to one side for a second. And I opened the booster pack and I looked at the cards and I saw all the really nice artwork, and then I saw the super shiny surprising skulkers, and I was a little bit reminded of my Magic the Gathering days, and it was quite fun to open a pack of cards and see what was in there. And then it encouraged me to, I sort of looked at the cards and thought, wonder what all this means. And then I downloaded this card game for my iPhone, because you can download this for free and play for free. It's got a pay in-game purchases, but it is initially a free download, and I started playing it on my phone, and I liked it. And it's got issues, but I liked it enough to actually decide to buy 2 starter sets so I could play the game with me missus. And here we are now with a game that originally I didn't think I was going to buy, and now I have bought some of it. And yeah, I still don't like the trading card thing, but yeah, I definitely I have the mentality that I have a... By the way, these boxes, they have no discernible way of opening them without wrecking the box. I'm gonna do that off camera, so I don't cut my hand off on camera. That'd be awful, wouldn't it? Yeah, it's this trading card games. I have mixed feelings about them, because I don't like it I certainly don't like the idea that there's a possibility, and I don't know if that is the case with this particular game, but I don't like the idea that there's potentially a pay-to-win mechanism where if you chase down super rare cards, you have better cards, and then when you go and face an opponent, you have better cards than them just because you spent a load more money on booster packs than they did. And that is always a problem with this sort of game. Look, there's a bunch of stuff in here. I thought this was just a starter deck. I thought it was just a deck of cards to actually play the game. But it's actually got play mats. This is a problem for me with card games. Magic the Gathering, one of the wonderful things about Magic the Gathering is you can just shuffle your deck and play anywhere, anytime, just go for it. This game requires, well, I suppose it doesn't require, you could play without it, but this mat, part of the game is a spatial awareness puzzle. It's you have champions that you put in certain columns, and then those champions summon units and spells into their columns, and they have a sort of direct opponent column on the other side of the board, and where you are is it's all related and relevant. So it's useful to have some kind of grid to work from, although you don't technically need it. You could do it without the grid, obviously, but there's also a health tracker thing. I'm wondering whether it is going to be easier in the end to play without the mats and have just lay out your 4 cards, your cards in a grid, and just have a little Magic the Gathering style wound tracker thing instead of the health bar going around the top. So that's one of my minor niggles about the game. Is card games by their nature, it's quite cool if you can just play them anywhere, anytime, without worrying too much about accessories. There's a booster pack in this box. I'm looking. This is the death box, by the way, with that charming chappie on the front. Really nice artwork for this game, as you would expect. There is quick rules, obviously, always, because it's a trading card game. They're not going to give you. They only give you these quick get started rules. There's probably full rules online somewhere. Yeah, and like I say, I've been playing this game online. Oh, I've dropped that. I've been playing this game online, and it's pretty good fun. It's odd. It's an odd duck because you have health points, so you are this. It's like you're this ephemeral being, because you have champions on the board, but the champions aren't directly fighting, and they don't get killed, they don't get removed from play, but the champions give you special abilities, and then they also give you the option to summon units and spells. But the units and spells don't really attack each other either. They attack your opponent's ephemeral concept of hit points. And so yeah, when you cause damage on your opponent, it lowers their hit point total, which sort of I guess represents maybe like army morale or something. But you don't actually inflict wounds on enemy creatures, although there is certain characters and abilities that will allow you to remove an enemy creature or an enemy spell. Tokens for tracking health. So yeah, it's a really weird sort of concept, and it's a little bit jarring, I guess, that your champions are on the table but they're not really fighting, and your units go on the table but they don't really fight each other. They fight the cloud beyond. They fight the I don't know, like there's some sort of gestalt entity. I can't get these cards out. There we go. So yeah, so there's some woundy trackers. Get rid of that. And yeah. So the way it works, what I found really interesting is that this is a unit. Sorry, this is a champion. So you have your champions go down. Hungering Vampire Lord. And a bloody vampire queen. Them bloody vampire queens, they're always causing trouble. So you have your heroes down like that. And then you have these things called blessings. And you randomly allocate face down a blessing to each of your heroes as well. It would go underneath normally. And then each of your heroes can do certain things. These are this is a wizard, a warrior wizard. This is a warrior wizard. These are warriors. So these can do spells or units. These can just do units. And so you play a unit. This is a unit. You can see it's got a shield, so it's a unit. And you play that to one of your columns that you are allowed to. And when you play it, it does the top thing up here. So it says here, damage to your opponent. So you play that, it does 2 damage to your opponent, to that sort of concept of hit points beyond the ravening horde of minions before you. And then that stays in play in that column. And then at the beginning of your next turn, it rotates. And then it does this again, based on that number. And then on your next turn, it rotates. And it does this again, based on that number. And then it goes away, because it's reached the end of its usefulness. So once it rotates round and once it rotates to nothing, it goes. But while that's in play, there are exceptions, but you can't normally place another thing there. Some cards stack, they have a stacking rule. But so while he's there, you can't place another unit on there. So you might suddenly get in your hand a better unit that you'd rather play there, but you can't, because this murdering Vargeist is taking up the slot, gradually getting weaker as he goes. And yeah, there's a timing mechanism. So because your opponent's obviously going to be playing things like this as well, and sometimes these values are going up, and you might have a spell that allows you to cancel a certain amount of damage, but you want to play it on your side of the table just at the point when he rotates round to do the massive damage. And that's really interesting. And also, each of your champions has its own little rotate thing. It's a chunky rotate thing, which means it only rotates when something happens. In this case, it will rotate when you summon a monster, a unit, and then he will rotate again when you play a unit, and then he will rotate again when you play an event, and then he will rotate again when you play another unit. And once you've done that, you get to reveal the blessing that was on that column, and you do, and then that kind of benefits you for the rest of the game. So the more you fulfill your obligations across the table, the more cool blessings you get into play. And that's a super interesting idea, and I really liked it. When I've played it online, I've really enjoyed it, because it avoids certain things that are a problem for me with some card games. One, it's quite difficult to have a runaway leader, because units don't stick around forever. It's not like you put this murdering Vargeist down and he's there for the rest of the game, hitting you for 2 points of damage every turn. He's there for 3 turns at most. He does 2 damage, 2 damage, 1 damage, and then he goes. So that's really interesting, because you can't just suddenly go, okay, here's a 10-10 dragon, boof, and then that dragon just eats you for the rest of the game, and there's nothing you can do about it. This is I've been playing online the Horus Heresy card game. I think it's called Legions, and that has got all of the problems with card games and online mobile games that I hate. It's definitely, I'm not too bad at the game itself, but it has a lot of problems, runaway leaders, things where once someone puts down a really powerful unit, unless you happen to get lucky and get a card in your hand that can do something, you get sort of stuck facing these big beefy monsters. And the other thing is, there's no sense of like mana screw in this game. There is very much a strong sense of action management, because you get 2 actions a turn, and an action can be to play a card from your hand, to do a heroic action on one of your champions, because some champions have heroic actions, like the Hungering Vampire Lord here says, heroic act, discard 1 card from your hand to gain 2 health. That's pretty cool, as if you've got a dead card that you're not really interested in using. So yeah, 1 action to place a card, 1 action will do a heroic act on a champion, and then an action will draw a card. So you get 2 actions. You could play 2 cards, and then you won't get to draw any new cards up, or you could play no cards and draw 2 cards up, and then you sort of lay off doing nothing now so that you can have a big turn later on. But always, unless you've got cards in play that give you those extra actions, which there are lots of cards that do that. There's certain spells and things that will say, well, you know, when this spell activates, you get an extra card draw or whatever. There's obviously always ways to get more, but on a general turn, you've got 2 actions. So even if you've got a handful of like the most amazing monsters, you can't just bum rush your opponent. You can't just go bam, 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 and just destroy them in one turn. You need to really think ahead. You need to plan carefully. You need to be really meticulous. And the game really is very much all about timing, and it's all about how the cards interact and knowing when to put a card that stacks on top of another card that stacks, when to place a shield, when to, you know, remove an opponent's card, when to set your cards up so that they rotate around and do the most damage, because if your opponent's got a shield that's slowly ticking down, you don't want to put out your most powerful thing unless it can sort of slowly tick up. And it's really meticulous. It is very much all this ticking is very much like clockwork, and yeah, it's very cool, and it's also kind of laid back. I mean, I don't feel stressed playing this game. I don't really get stressed playing games anyway. But there's no, it's just sort of quite chilled and quite relaxed, and you know, nothing sort of goes massively, like there's no massive swings. It's all carefully planned, and yeah, I just find it's just like a nice, enjoyable game. And I'm looking forward to playing it face to face with someone. I'm not going to sort of talk too much more about it for now. I'm obviously going to want to review it at some point, and I think I've already pretty much said most things that I would love to say at this stage. I'm just going to show you some of the artwork. I don't know what the rules are for sort of limits in deck. I think it's 3. So here we go. This is quite interesting. See, he comes into play and says corners 1 and 2 gain that much health. Corners 3 draw that many cards. So he comes into play, even though he's a unit, he's not attacking anyone. On the first turn he comes into play, you're going to get 1 health. The second turn he's in play, you're going to get 1 health. The third turn he's in play, you're going to draw 2 cards, which is great. So that you heal a little bit, and then you get a big wedge of cards to set you up for a future turn. Crypt Black Knights, the freakish crypt horror. Yeah, there's a zombie dragon, charging Black Knight, cursed strike, and this is an ability. And it says, 3 damage to your opponent, you may rotate a highlighted spell or unit 1 step backwards or forwards. Now, a lot of the cards have this highlight thing. What this means is, if whichever, you can see it's just highlighting 1 square directly in front of a dot. The dot represents your champion that actually plays this card. So, if this skeleton played this ability, he could rotate the card that's directly opposite your opponent has played. So it is sort of very important which channel you're using and where you're striking. And a lot of them have this sort of thing. Bloody Thirst can only be played by a vampire champion. If this champion has removed a highlighted unit this turn, gains 6 health. So there we go. So there's some really interesting stuff, because it's not just about the cards, it's about the ability on the cards, but also the timing of the cards, and also the position of the cards, and also trying to make sure you're playing the right cards to actually activate your champion so that you can then get these blessings. There's a lot to think about, but it's actually a very, very smooth playing game. Terrify. This can only be deployed by a vampire champion. Highlighted units and spells are dormant. So, there you go, the spell on either side just stops working whilst that is in play. Cool. Groovy. Devour. Call of the Grave, Mystic Shield. So here you go, this is one of those shields that gradually ticks down. So the turn you play it, it's on 2. So on your next opponent's turn, any unit he plays, because look, it's highlighting all of the row, any unit will do 2 less damage. So you want to do that when they're going to get a big hitter out. But then on your next turn, that ticks down. So on his next turn, everything's only reduced by 1. And the turn after that, your Mystic Shield's dead, it's gone. So it's all about timing. It's all about timing and positioning. Booster cards, scan and share. This is cool as well. It has this augmented thing. You can scan all of your cards and then they appear in the app on the game. You can scan this booster card and it unlocks a booster pack that you can I don't know, I think you can share those and with other people, they can get a free booster pack as well. And yeah, then there's a Death Campaign deck reference cards. Yeah, so there we have it, a quick look at the Death Campaign deck for Warhammer Age of Sigmar Champions, a card game that initially I wasn't going to buy, partly because I don't like the retail model of the trading card game system. I'm going to leave it there for now. I'll do another video where we look at the campaign deck for the Chaos, and then I might do a little unboxing for the booster packs that came with those campaign decks, just so we can have a look and we can see, you know, how much there is in terms of duplication in the decks, and you know how many rare cards and common cards we get and things like that. All that sort of stuff that comes with the trading card game system that I don't really like very much. But on the plus side, at least I'm not going to be getting into any other trading card games. Bugger.